Empire.
All right, welcome to the latest edition of Alzner and Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzner. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. Later on, we're going to have Pace Sagester on, former Capitals PR guy, now at the University of North Carolina, who has a lot of fun stories that Karl doesn't know what stories are coming, which is going to be fun. First, Karl, let's talk about we'll talk some Caps off season today. But first, you were between the benches for the Capitals development camp scrimmage, and I know you've had a lot of these experiences. You did a little coaching with the PWHPA. You've done this. What was that like?
It was actually very, very cool. I was quite nervous at first just because, it's live, it's happening as you go. You got to be kind of on top of it. Plus I'm right in the mix. So I have to, I guess, keep my head on a swivel in case of flying pucks and sticks and all that. So I was a little nervous, but I talked to Locker about it a little bit. I talked to Walden and Ben Raby and just got a little sense of what to expect. And once the game starts, I mean, it doesn't seem, I shouldn't say it doesn't seem hard, but you get into like a groove, right?
Sure.
Then you're just watching hockey and talking about hockey. And so we weren't supposed to be getting all that technical because it was just a development camp scrimmage and the guys were just having fun. But it's fun to just be able to add in as things are happening, right? See a play, give a little bit of feedback on the play and actually get to see some of these prospects like up close in the flesh and what they can do, because there's one thing to be said for how good you look in practice and what you can do one-on-one with a goalie and all that stuff, but then to see a little bit more of a realistic scrimmage, even though they weren't playing as physical, I don't think, as maybe the coaching staff would have liked. I still get to see some pretty impressive individual skill. So overall it was solid. I would love to do something like that again, because I think that's really fun.
Did anybody stick out to you? I mean, obviously Hendrix Lapierre is around and kind of the closest to the NHL of those guys. But as you're watching, did anyone stick out?
Yeah, well, definitely Lapierre was amazing. He looked like he was playing like he was 3-on-3, even when it was 5-on-5. His puck possession was extremely impressive. He looked relaxed out there. I'd say Vincent Iorio looked.
He's a big boy.
Yes, very, very good. He's a Western Canadian guy too, which I really like. Very smooth out there. He's almost one of those guys that you don't really expect him to have these like really nice hands, and he does. I don't know why I don't necessarily expect that. Maybe just because he also has a bit of that stay-at-home defenseman vibe to him. But the next thing you know, he's up in the rush and he's stick handling around guys. I thought that was really impressive. And then I'm blanking on the kid's first name, but
Ryan Chesley.
Yeah. Ryan. Yeah. He looked really good too. Not afraid to take players on one-on-one, good skater, good positioning, really nice passing. There's a couple more, but I'd say that those three were probably the number ones, I guess. And then the goaltending was actually really good. Some huge goalies. It was like 6'5", 2 6'5s.
Look, everybody's 6'5" now.
Yeah, it seems like it. That's impressive, man. But there were some massive saves, and that's really hard. That was really hard on the goalies, I think. They go down to 4-on-4 for 10 minutes and then 3-on-3 for 10 minutes and then shoot out at the end of training camp that they've been going pretty hard. Like that was tough for them. And I thought they did a really good job. So it looked like there was some serious promise there. Even the free agent signings, like the guys that were, or not even signings, the free agents that were just there for a tryout, like some of them were really, really good as well. So I don't know. I guess it just goes to show what the level is right now. But I think, the prospect pool might not seem as deep like some people are saying, but it looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, and we know that there's not a whole lot of deep prospects in this organization. Like this is a win now mode now for the organization, which brings me to what Brian McClellan's moves in free agency. We talked about a lot of them last week, but latest one, bringing in Gabriel Carlsson from the Blue Jackets, another left shot defenseman. Lucas Johansson is going to get a chance at some point to earn a job. Matt Irwin got re-signed though. It just feels like with Carlson and Strome and Connor Brown and everything, Eric Gustafson, everything that Brian McClellan's doing is saying, guys, win now, because the future, like those guys can come. Lucas Johansson, Alexiev, Miroshchenko, Ryan Chesley, they're all part of the future. but Mac is all in for keeping this team, at least giving them a shot to win next year and beyond.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way for teams to do it, right? I don't think it's fun for a fan base to be relevant and all of a sudden go away for 5 years and then come back again. I guess the building process can be exciting, but it's nice to always be involved, especially when you have some players that are going down as legends of this franchise that might not be here in 5 years, right? So you got to do your best to give them a chance, but. I think it's nice to just you just bring a few guys in every year and then stay somewhat competitive, although you might not be at the top of the league in terms of the Colorados and the Tampas and stuff, but at least you're there. You can still make a splash, and I think that's what Mac is doing with this team right now, and so I like it. I think that there's definitely a pretty good future. Love to see Johansson get a crack at it. I feel
at
like
some point, right?
Yeah, there's been so much talk about him over the years that, like, I think he came while I was still there, I believe.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah, and I was expecting to see him at some point then to have a chance. I know there's been some unfortunate injuries and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice to see some homegrown talent.
For sure. But this is for me, and this is the other update from Brian McClellan was he said Tom Wilson's on track. He's doing fine, but it looks like a December timeframe on a return. But it really feels like we spoke to Connor Brown the other day. Like the penalty killing that Tom Wilson did, this is what Connor Brown's going to fill in. So even if Tom misses, and this is what I think we've talked about, is like you don't want Tom rushing back. Like if this team is succeeding enough, Tom cannot rush back. If they're struggling out of a playoff spot by December 1st, he's going to want to get back on the ice. But having Connor Brown there, I think is going to help keep Tom Wilson like okay to not want to rush back on the ice.
Absolutely. I mean, Tom is a pretty elite penalty killer, but Connor Brown is also too extremely elite. Five shorties last year. It's very hard to do. It's a hard position to play. Those are difficult minutes, being on the kill. Sure. So I think he's going to fill in, perfect for Tom while he's out. Obviously you lose a little bit of that physicality that Tom brings, but otherwise I think they're a pretty good match for each other. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but yeah, it's like you said, we won't know until December when we see what kind of track this team is on, whether or not you rush anything. But I think we look future, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the line.
Yeah. Why worry about anything beyond that?
Yeah. Don't rush a guy back from an ACL. It'll be hard for Tom to sit still and not do it. But you're looking long-term at this, you don't need to have someone back and have a lingering injury that they're going to, I've talked to lots of guys who have had ACL issues, and it's like, it happens once and it bugs them for the rest of their lives. So, do it the right way the first time.
And I've been saying that as soon as Alex Ovechkin leaves, I think Tom Wilson is the captain of this team. Like I've gone on record saying that I think that he's a guy who's so respected in the locker room that he is that. And so for all the kind of Mac win now stuff, it is important for Tom Wilson to not rush this back, because with an ACL, you don't want to screw around with that.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, it's tough to say right now.
Well, we're talking years down the line. We hope,
yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah. But yeah, he definitely has a lot of the attributes you would like to have in a captain for sure. Guys like him in the room and all that. But we just don't know who's coming in, right? That could maybe also be that role. But yeah, it's as much as you want to win now, I don't think you ever sacrifice a right. player's long-term health, potential health, right? So this is it's just too hard to say right now. But you know what? It's also the Caps, and now DC in this area expects winners, and that's what we want to see. So if he's going to be out, longer and things aren't tracking the way that everybody's hoping, then who knows what they do? Maybe they start retooling a little bit earlier than that. But let's hope for all of our sake that we have a good team to watch.
Yeah, and so goaltending, Mac figured this out. Vitek Vanacek gets a $10.2 million 3-year contract from the New Jersey Devils. How about that? I mean, I think a lot of people were surprised. Samsonov takes a 1-year, $1.8 million deal, and Vanacek gets almost double that.
Yeah, isn't that impressive? When I saw that, is that just what the rest of the league thinks of the two goalies?
I think that's what Vanacek would have gotten in arbitration too.
Yeah, so that I'm sure they've done all their homework, and that's what he technically deserved. But I think that he brings less baggage with him. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I think Samsonov's maybe, it's still a wild card to a lot of people, where I think Vanacek, they know he's pretty solid.
Yep.
Is he that price solid? We'll find out.
We're gonna find out.
It could be one of those things where he leaves and absolutely flourishes with a change of scenery. But we don't know for sure. But I'm happy to see that he got paid. I'm always happy when guys are getting paid. So it's a nice thing for him. And hopefully it works out. But it's just I've just been laughing at some of the stuff going on, like especially the Goudreau thing, and everyone's like pictures of him, of Goudreau, and then Calgary on fire in the background and stuff like that. Like
Matthew Tkachuk wants a trade now.
Yeah, it's insane how fast things can apparently tumble, right? I think it just goes to show you like how important it is to players to be in a place where they have people that they like, or they think they're going to feel comfortable. Like the power of one player to bring somebody else in is huge, right? If you go out there and say, Ovi goes out there and says, hey, like we really need to have Nazem Kadri, he's going to be great. And Kadri and Ovi are best buddies or whatever. That's how easy it can be. And it seems like that's what happened with Columbus, because no one really was expecting to see that happen. So it's word of mouth that you need your players to go and vouch for other guys sometimes too.
Look, I know Brian McClellan's really good at the cap. I don't think he can fit Nazem Kadri. I know he's a lot of things and he used a lot of Nick's money. I don't think he can fit Nazem Kadri at this point.
And I don't think he necessarily should either. I mean,
Dylan Strome is the Nick replacement for now.
Yes, exactly. And Kadri's I think he's going to get too much money.
I think he's going back to Colorado.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet for him. Honestly, like this is one of those things where I think you go, the grass isn't always greener just because you're going to get paid. I think you stay in the place where things are good and they know what you bring. And so maybe he has, 3/4 of the points that he had last year. I think it's still really good. And I think the city still really, really loves him for it. Right. But if he all of a sudden goes somewhere else and doesn't put up 80 points and he puts up 55, people are going to be pissed, and then they're going to be on him, and then it's going to be hard for him. Right. So I think this is one of those things for the rest of his career, his on ice career, not his bank account career. He should just stick where he is.
He'll get paid decently as well. When we come back on All's Caps, former Capitals PR guy, Pace Sagester, he's got stories about a NASCAR race in a sunroof, Terryville scooter gang, a radio interview from a bar in Chapel Hill, and other things about Karl Alzner when we come back on All's Caps. Welcome back to All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzner. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino, and pleased to be joined by former Capitals PR guy Pace Sagester, who has some great Alzner stories, because I know my favorite part of this podcast is asking people for their Alzner stories, and it's usually, oh, he's such a great guy, and this and that, and it's true. But Pace, thank you for joining us. What is your? I'm going to lead off. What is your best Karl Alzner story?
Hold on. Okay. I just want to say, first of all, I feel bad because I don't have my Duke shirt is in the wash and I couldn't put it on today. So unfortunately I had to get my Carolina blue hat on for Pace, because everybody that knows Pace knows he's obsessed with the Tar Heels and his sci-fi fraternity too. But we're happy that you made time for us. I know you're busy. Look at you all dolled up these days. So Pace, thank you so much for coming and go easy on me with these stories, because most of them are your fault.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, first of all, your Duke shirt, the only place the Duke shirt belongs in the trash can, so you need to fix that quickly. But
I want to thank you, Pace. I did this book on eBugs, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. So I want to say thank you first before we get too much into this. That Pace is heavily factored into Odd Man In, Emergency Goalies and the Wildest One Day Job in Sports, which is out in October on Triumph Books. But yeah, you have a lot to do with that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you including me in that. Looking forward to seeing it when it comes out, and
get a signed copy.
Yes, excellent. That was what I was going to ask. Yeah, I definitely need a signed copy. Yeah, no, appreciate you guys for having me. It's quite an honor. It's not every day you get to be a guest on your favorite podcast, so appreciate you guys having me on here. I think my favorite personality trait about Alzy is how curious he is about everything, and how quickly he can go from knowing nothing to being really passionate. So when I joined the Caps in 2013, I'm from North Carolina. I walk into the locker room talking about NASCAR and Bojangles, and that piqued his interest right away. All the bells and whistles were going off in his head, and it did not take him long to dive headfirst into NASCAR. So at the end of my first season, 2014, the summer 2014, Alzey, myself, and our good buddy Dave Marin, the equipment guy, drove down to Richmond for a NASCAR race. And at the time, my sister was working for Elliott Sadler. He's a driver in the Xfinity Series, who the Xfinity Series is NASCAR's developmental series. So it's young drivers, but it's also veteran drivers that can still make a living doing it. It's exactly like the AHL. So we drove down on a Friday night, and we took Alzey's truck, and we stopped at a Bojangles in Richmond on the way down there, and we had his first Bojangles experience tailgating in the parking lot, which I have to say, we were sitting out there in this giant field, and he was recognized by somebody. You remember that, Alzey?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, you can't hide fame even at a NASCAR race. So we go into the track, and we had garage passes, and we're checking everything out. We actually did a meet and greet with Jimmy Johnson while we were there. They did a jersey swap, which was sick. So somewhere out there, I'd like to think that Jimmy Johnson still has a Capitals 48 jersey, but I'm sure that's long gone by now. So the worst part of this day, we were having an awesome time meeting the pit crew and talking with Elliott Sadler and everything, but there was this massive downpour, and there's this huge rain delay. And we were
like 2 hours.
Yeah, it took forever.
Yeah.
So of course the race ends incredibly late. We stay for the whole thing. We have a great time. I don't know where Elliott finished, but we sat on the pit box. I mean, if he wasn't hooked for NASCAR before, he's certainly hooked now, experiencing all that. So we go back to his truck to take the 2.5-hour drive back to DC. And he left the sunroof open on his truck
no.
the entire time. So we go to open the doors, and water just cascades out of the doors.
Oh boy.
There are inches and inches and inches of rain all in his truck. So he doesn't get upset at all, but we don't have any towels or anything. We're really just shoveling water out of the floorboard, off the seats, onto the ground. So we drive back the 2.5 hours, and we're sitting in water. I mean, we're soaked. I think we had like the windows down the whole way back. I mean, it's a pretty quiet drive. So yeah, you handled that a lot better than I would have. But the funny part to wrap the story up was the next morning at like 6 a.m. I get a call that we've fired George and Adam Oates, and that the press conference is like that morning. I have to rush into Kettler like 7 a.m. the next morning after getting back so late from being soaking wet from the NASCAR race. But yeah, that was like our first bonding experience together, was going to the NASCAR race, and it was awesome. I mean, that's just who he is. He gets excited about new things. So yeah,
I mean that, and it was so freaking cool all the way, like right from the start with our Bowberry biscuits. Never had any of those before. And then we thought it was so, like, we're driving down, and like I have no idea what the NASCAR culture is like, right? And Pace is just like, hey, watch this. And he rolls down the window, and some guy's wearing a Dale Jr. like shirt jersey thing, and he yells, "Yo, Junior!" And then the guy's like, "Yeah, like, let's go." And I'm just like, geez, people are crazy. And he's like, "We got to do the whole thing though. We got to tailgate, all that." So the reason my sunroof was open is because we were in the back. I think we were like throwing a football or something like that, and we were trying to listen to music. So I had all the windows open in the sunroof so that we could get the music a little bit better. And then we all of a sudden realized, like, holy smokes, like, we got to get in there. So we just closed up shop as fast as we could and got in. And I didn't even think about it until we got back. But it was like, when you're in the inside of your car is wet, and then you get like the condensation inside too. So it's not like the windshield wipers could just like wipe away the condensation. Like, it was on the inside. And so it was just miserable on the way back. But at that point, what can you do, right? I'm all about, once it's happened, there's no point about worrying about it after the fact. So it was interesting. And we've talked about it again. We got to go with the RV next time, with the motorhome, and get on the infield and really soak it all in. The real what is it, Talladega? Is that where we want to go, or one of the big ones there?
Yeah, Talladega Boulevard is what they call the infield of the racetrack there, and it gets insane. That's where we'll get the full experience.
The true NASCAR fans, right there.
Exactly.
A
Yep.
bunch of pace cars all just running around. It's sweet.
Carl, you wanted to ask, you had a rookie party story to ask about?
Oh no. Oh no. I didn't know these were on the table.
Oh, man, you come on here.
Recalibrate.
Everything is on the table. It would be nice when we release this episode to release a picture as well of Pace, but I think we'll keep that. Well, if you want to do it, you can, but I would never do that to somebody. But we got some good pictures of Pace really getting down. I didn't know that Pace knows so many lyrics to so many songs and really likes to dance and get involved. And, you know, he was probably the drunkest one at his rookie party, which is the way it typically
someone has to be the drunkest girl.
Somebody has to be, but I guess it's harder than I thought to work the Uber app and figure out how to get yourself home after a tough night. So, I mean, Pace, you can go ahead and explain it if you want, but it's the quickest Uber ride in the history of all Uber rides, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, long story short, that was the night we had the rookie party on Halloween night, and it was the night after the longest shootout in NHL history. It was the one against Florida that went how many rounds? 20 rounds. I mean, Alzner, you got in the shootout. That's all you need to know about how long it went. If they were tapping you on the shoulder to get into the shootout. So we didn't have any time in between getting back to the hotel and then hopping on the bus to this club. So I just changed clothes, didn't eat anything, and that is always a recipe for disaster. And the way how it worked is there's a booth that all the players were in there. They were just ordering like buckets of beer, and by the time the bucket got back to me, it was empty. So it was probably like 1 o'clock before I even had my first drink. And finally, something comes back and it's full, and it's a tray of tequila shots. So I ripped a few of those. So next thing I know, I wake up and I'm looking up at the sky. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I rolled over and looked at my phone, and it was 7 a.m. But my phone and my wallet and my keys were sitting next to me at a table, and I was outside on the patio of a hotel restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. So I kind of stumbled around a little bit and got my act together and figured out where I was, and I was at the wrong hotel. So I get an Uber, and I was like, hey, I need to go to the Ritz-Carlton. And the Uber driver turns around and he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, that's where I'm going. So he like steps on the gas, steps on the brake, and he's like, we're here. It was next door. My Uber, this was before like the minimum. I have the screenshot. My Uber was $0.00 back to the hotel. And yeah, we'll never know how I ended up outside or at the wrong hotel. Dave Marin, to bring him up again, he swears he put me in a cab and told the cabbie the right hotel. But I mean, it happens. That was my rookie party. That was my first rookie party, and just.
That's how it's supposed to be, man. That's what you always want. A couple good stories out of it, and that's one of them. The fact that you
one slice of pizza or maybe a dinner roll, and things would have turned out differently. But yeah, the 20-round shootout was a killer.
But the story is still so much better. You actually told the story, I think, with a night with Scott Burnside and I in Raleigh. So I remember this story.
Yeah, it's not my greatest moment.
Look, you turned out, everything turned out fine. You have a great story to tell from it.
Yeah, thankful for the patio. I mean, I literally slept like on a sidewalk. I'm very thankful that no one came by and just saw my phone and wallet and keys sitting there and said, okay, thank you. So yeah, thankful that everything turned out okay.
No kidding. And you were leaking that night too. So much sweat. Like
they were playing lots of Drake. I mean, I can't help myself.
That's where it was. When I first found out your love for Drake, you just knew everything that came on the stereo. It was crazy. Never seen anything.
I feel like I'm just teeing up for stories. Terryville Terry Scooter Gang.
Yes.
That's seriously, the Terryville Terrors is one of the best. The whole Terry is one of the funniest things I think ever. But I
think you need to start with the origin of Terry. It's finally time to reveal that.
Okay, it's finally time. So what happened was we were in exhibition game against Carolina. And it is it Chris Terry, which is Chris Terry was there. And I don't remember the exact play, but Ovi's on the bench and he yells, Terry, you're a suck. And we all like look at Ovi like, how long have you been here? And you don't even know how to say like, you suck. You're a suck. Like, it was just one of those things that was ridiculous. So everything became a suck after that, right? You had a bad game. I was a suck. That play was a suck, like just terrible English. And then that led into calling somebody a Terry. So if you had a bad game, you were a Terry, or if you forgot something and it was really stupid, you were a Terry. And so it was just one of those things that kind of spun out of control. And even I think the coaching staff in Carolina was asking, like, do you guys seriously call everything that sucks a Terry now because of Chris Terry? And it was kind of the truth. Yeah, that's how it all started. And I don't know that he necessarily knew this, but it was a big deal. Like, our playoff shirts that year said, "Don't be a Terry." Like, even our coaching staff was heavily involved and invested in this. So yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of went out of control. And so yeah, we took it to the next level with our scooter gang.
The best part about that was it was a preseason game. It was
Yeah.
Chris Terry. Like, why is Ovi chirping Chris
Yeah.
Terry at all, let alone in a preseason game? And it was, I can't emphasize this enough. Like, the entire organization was completely immersed in Terry. Everyone knew what it was. Everyone was saying it. I mean, it was all over the place. So I lived in Boston, right next to Kettler. I had a house a few blocks away. Sometimes I would walk, but let's be honest, most of the time I still drove, even though it was like 2 blocks. And I was sitting at a stoplight turning into the parking garage one time, and I look over and here comes 3 nerds on scooters. And I was like, who are these guys? And they're like, they're sitting there and they're feeling good about themselves at the stoplight. And it's Alzey, Ocean, was it Niski?
Yeah.
Was he the third? So
Yeah.
I guess those 3 guys, they lived in the same neighborhood.
We also Nick Backstrom was involved in this, but he was fair weather because it would get too cold for him.
So they have these little mopeds, and like I honk, and then all 3 of them look at the same time. And they already have smiles on their face because they're like getting recognized. They're like waving at me. They're so fired up. So finally, I track them down. I'm like, what was that? And they're like, oh, we're the Terryville Terrys. We're the scooter gang in Arlington. They rode those things everywhere. I am certain that there are people listening to this who are thinking back now, like, yeah, I absolutely saw TJ Oshie or Matt Niskanen or Karl on a scooter at some point during that time. I forget what season that was, but like that was the entire season you guys were riding those things around town.
Oh yeah, me and Niski were hardcore. Like we drove those things every day if we could. It was cheap on gas and it was easy to get places. We took them down to the rink during playoffs, everything. I don't know if it was you that took the picture or James that took a picture of us, but we got pictures of us like selfies in front of the Washington Monument and stuff on our way down. Like it was so much fun to get on these things and just cruise. But we planned on getting, like cuts, like vests and everything with the logo on it. And then Nick, like I said, Nick, he didn't like when it got cold because it was cold on his hands. So he didn't really want to come out. And then OSHA's battery died on his, I think because he left the lights on. So then he didn't really get out there as much. So it was mainly just me and Niski riding. And then in that year, I can't remember what happened. I don't know if whatever year it was, I left. So I sold mine. And then I think it just kind of fizzled out after that. But man, it was the good old days. It all started with Mike Green riding his back in the day on
that
the HBO series. It just kind of spawned our love for scooters. So yeah, it was actually really fun. I've been thinking about getting another one just because of the memories.
What a time to have professional athletes zooming all over Arlington and DC on scooters.
We weren't cool enough like Erskine to actually have the legit chopper that he would come to the rink on. So we had to go scooters instead.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we had a good time, man. We had such a good crew. Like we've talked about this a bunch. Like that year, or those few years that we had in Washington, just an unbelievable group of guys. And I think that's when it started kind of going around the league a little bit. Like this team has fun. Like they're a good team, but everybody really, really enjoys themselves. And I think that's where we really started to get a little bit more traction there too.
We were talking about that recently, that 13, 14, 14, 15 team, especially the one that lost to the Rangers in game 7 in OT. I mean, Joel Ward, Jason Chimera, Eric Fair, like some of the all-time like
Oh yeah,
great personalities.
2 out of the 3 have been guests on this podcast already, so we got to get Joel on.
Yes, we
Oh,
do.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, that locker room was a blast every day, especially coming off a season that was miserable pretty much from start to finish, missing the playoffs the year before. And then finally, watching the team find its sea legs and make a run at it. And yeah, I still think, not only should we have won that series against the Rangers, being up 3-1 in a couple close games in 5, 6, and 7, but who knows what happens if you get past that series. And yeah, that was such a fun locker room environment every day, and really set the tone for the teams after that too, because there was changeover, but that culture was still there, just big personalities and having fun.
Yeah, I think that was the year. Is that the year that LA won and was running through everybody?
15 was Blackhawks, right?
15.
Blackhawks beat the Lightning in 15.
That was still that era where whoever won the Western Conference Final was probably going to win the cup. But
yeah,
yeah, I think the Rangers played Tampa, kind of like the first iteration of Tampa in the conference final that year. But we were just so hot, and yeah, if we could just found a way to win 5 or 7 of the 2 that stand out for me against New York, that we wish we could have found a way. But
yeah,
that was still fun.
What year was the radio interview from a bar in Chapel Hill? Was that same time frame?
Yeah, that was the year before. That was 13, 14. That was just perfect.
This is
timing.
his fault. This is his fault.
That was perfect time. So first of all, as a PR guy, Alzey is your kind of dream athlete because he's well spoken. He's extremely knowledgeable about the game, but
he'll do anything too, right?
Exactly. Most importantly, he'll do anything.
He's doing this with me. I mean, what we're gonna ask?
But it goes back to the curiosity part of his personality is he would ask, why are we doing this, or why are we doing this way? And he just had a knowledge base of, if I was coming to him to ask him to do something, it's not because I'm trying to punish him. It's because I need him. And it's either because a reporter has asked for him specifically, or I just think he's a good fit. So yeah, I would lean on him for a lot of different things because he was just so good. That's all the pumping your tires I'll do for the remainder of the day. So we got eliminated. We found out we missed the playoffs that first year. We were actually in Raleigh, and there was supposed to be a practice day the next day, and we landed and found out we were out. So OC canceled practice. So it was a perfect storm. We're in Raleigh. We have a day off. So I round up everybody I can, and we take the hotel shuttle to Chapel Hill, stomping grounds. And I took everyone around campus and showed them my favorite bar, and I took them to my old fraternity house. And as you can imagine, I mean, there's beer at every single stop of the way. This is a long day. So we finally end up at He's Not, which is it's like a beer garden in Chapel Hill, but the legend goes that it was Michael Jordan's favorite bar in college, and it was named something else. And the owner got so tired of people calling and asking if Michael Jordan was there, he would simply answer the phone and start saying, "He's not here. How can I help you?" And then they renamed the bar He's Not Here, and has since just been shortened amongst the locals to He's Not. So we're in the bar. We've had several rounds of drinks.
These huge cups too. They're like 2.5 pints.
Or 2.5 beers. Yeah. So we've had a couple of rounds of those. Again, it's a good crew. I think Eric Fair was there, one of the ringleaders. And so I have a alert in my phone at like 4:00 to remind Alzey that he has a radio interview, because he did these weekly interviews. Who was it with? Can you remember? Was it Grant Danny?
I think it was with it might have been with Grand Danny, or was it with Chad Dukes? Can't remember which one it was.
Yes, it was LeVar and Dukes. That's what it was. So Alzey at this point is, I mean, you're not completely buckled, but you're feeling good. So
I'm talkative.
So we have this conversation where we're like, do you want to do this? Should we do this? I mean, we got eliminated from the playoffs not 24 hours before. That's going to be the topic of conversation. It's not going to be a good interview. And he's like, nope, I got it. I promise you, I got it. So he starts the interview in the bar, like actually inside. And they had let us in early because they weren't open yet. Remember that, Alzey?
Oh, yeah.
Just us in the bar. And you guys were like going around back, pouring yourself your own drinks. And So eventually, like, everyone's like hooting and hollering in the bar trying to like mess him up. So he steps outside and does the interview and powers through. And he comes back and he's like, I got that. Like, that was easy. That was nothing. And in my head, I'm like, I'm kind of dreading it. So
You're panicking.
yeah, I'm panicking. So at this point, I'm like, it's time to go. We wrap it up. We get an Uber. We go back. In the Uber back to Raleigh, where the hotel was, I get a text from Chad Dukes. And he was like, man, thank you so much. That was the best interview we've ever had. Karl was so chatty. He was so talkative. That was awesome. So, hey, man, well done. You stepped up to the plate and you killed it.
Everyone made it seem like we were so happy to be out of the playoffs that year.
Dude, that's the radio equivalent of not putting the puck off the glass and out. You went right up the middle with that, like Dennis Wyman, and turned out great.
Absolutely. Exactly. Had to take a chance there and hit a home run. You know, it doesn't happen often, but that was a fun one. It went through my mind after that. All my things should be, you know, just kind of like hanging out with the boys, grab a couple drinks and just talk about it, right? Like we've talked about on here, Wino. That
we got to do the bottle kill episode at some point.
You know what? It went through my head. The first or second game I ever did with NBCSN there, the post game show. I'm like, you know what? I think I should just crack a beer here and just really have a good conversation. And then I'm like, it's probably not very professional. So never did it, but it went through my mind. I'm like, conversation is usually better when everyone's a little bit more relaxed.
If you could just make that your thing, if you could establish that, like, because for the post game, you're gonna have a beer in your hand. You're gonna bring the player's perspective from on the bus.
Exactly.
Out of beer.
Yeah, it's the new version of Boys on the Bus from the Oilers back in the day. Just Karl in the booth, I guess.
Karl with a beer in the booth. All right, we got to take a break on All's Caps. When we come back, we'll tell a few more stories, but then Pace Sagester gets to be the latest victim of Karl's stupid question. Welcome back to All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzner and former Capitals PR guy Pace Sagester. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. We're going to get to Karl's stupid questions, but we tell stories around here. We're taping this at 9 a.m. with no beer, and it's very relaxed. So I can't imagine what this would be like a night in Raleigh, a night in Chapel Hill. But Pace had one more, that Barry Trotz threatened to fire you at one point before a playoff game in Toronto.
He did. Yeah, that was a near-death experience for me. So as a PR guy, there's certain things that you do every single game. You just can kind of get into a rhythm in doing it. But there are certain things that I dreaded every single game. And at the very top of that list was the room shot. Ozzy, I'd be interested to hear what your opinion is on the room shot, but I hated it. And I mean, for anyone who's ever watched a hockey broadcast, there was probably a room shot. And what that is the local TV station, or if it's a national broadcast, that TV station gets 90 seconds in the locker room to film whatever they want. But it's usually 3 players is all they can fit in there. Ozzy, did you like being the guy on the room shot?
No, hated it. I would try to get up and walk away if possible. That's or turn around or something like that. I did not like it because they're like your skates and then right up to your face and all that stuff, and everyone's chirping you and trying to make you laugh, and it's just awkward. But what was nice is we had Justin Williams, who he was like you get like 10 seconds max, and he would just be like, okay, you're done, let's go. He tried and rush him out of the room. It was so funny.
Getting him in the locker room was huge for the room shot, because he took my job away from me. I didn't have to do anything except open the door at that point. He would police it.
Yeah.
He'd police it hard. I would give the cameraman 30 seconds per player, and I'm just watching the clock count down. But he would give him 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And if I'm tapping the guy on the shoulder saying, get out of here, that's one thing. If Justin Williams is telling you to get out of the locker room, you're going to listen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's stressful because there's also a lot of things in the locker room you don't want people to see. You can't show anyone shirtless, and you didn't wear an undershirt under your pads. So you were a guy who was always shirtless. So
I always I had a deep V.
That's
that
right.
Always cut out of my
Cut
shirt.
out the logo.
Anything around my neck was like the worst. So I just cut the heck out of my shirts. It looked like Peter Pan. So that's what it was for me.
Yeah. So there's a really finite amount of time where you can let the camera guy in, where he's not going to disrupt the team, but also he's not going to catch, someone shirtless or someone without their gear on. So it's stressful, and it's stressful every single time. So when Barry came to town, Barry started putting all of the team's systems on this just insane. If anyone's seen the picture of the locker room, there's like 100-inch TV in the locker room. It's massive. And he, instead of taping up the systems and the things for the game that night, would put them on this screen. There's no hiding that. It takes up an entire fourth of the locker room because that's one entire wall. And when Barry was with Team Canada at the World Cup, he was talking to, and I forget which coach he was with, but someone had told him, they'd been like, hey, Barry, we get a live feed of the room shot every time that you let the camera in there. And one time the camera caught your systems and we screenshotted the systems and we knew what you guys were playing that night. So that was a bug in Barry's head where he was like, we need to not let this camera catch the systems no matter what. So I would always be really aggressive with the cameraman. I would say, don't shoot this wall. I would stand in front of him. I would push his camera down, things like that. So this is the playoffs. We've had the same camera guy time and time again. I actually think it was the Ninja Warrior competitor.
Yeah.
That was the cameraman this time. And he knew the deal. He knew not to shoot that wall. And I had been aggressive with him a few times. It's like, I forget what game it was. It was game 3 or 4. And so he goes in there, he does the rim shot, and he walks out. I think nothing's wrong. I go up to the press box. We're about to start this playoff game. And Mitch Korn calls me, and he said, you need to get back down to the locker room right now, and doesn't give me any more information. Like Mitch Korn being the old goalie coach. So I run to the elevator press box. I run down to the locker room. I walk in, and no one looks up at me. Everyone's looking down. There's probably like 10 people in the room, and Barry is hot. And he walks over and he points at the screen, and they have a screenshot of all of their systems on the board, clear as day. And I'm standing right next to it, looking at the camera, doing nothing. Because when the camera guy was walking, like in his stride, he shot the board accidentally. So Barry is just giving it to me, talking about how I have one job. This is unacceptable. It's unprofessional. How I put the team at a disadvantage. And I will never forget this line because it doesn't make any sense. But he says, if it happens again, it won't happen again. Do you understand? I was like, no, but I guess so. But obviously I just nodded and I was like, yes, sir, I'm sorry. So he walks out and he slams the door shut. And I forget what happened, but something fell off the wall. He slammed it so hard. So I'm like, okay, well, we better win this game because if they come out and we lose, I'm absolutely fired. So I go back over the press box. I'm like shaking that from this interaction. And sure enough, Toronto scored in like the first minute. We should look up what game it was, but Toronto scored instantly. And I was like, well, that's it. I mean, I might as well, pull up Indeed right now. I'm fired. And then Tim Ohashi, the video coach, he texted me immediately after that goal. And he said, no matter what happens tonight, this is not your fault. Like this is they didn't score on that because you let them see our system. So luckily we pulled out that game and we pulled out that series. But yeah, Barry scared me within an inch of my life.
How nice. Tim Ohashi coming in with the save there. What a beauty that guy is.
Good,
but
dude.
He couldn't save my job. If we had lost that game in that series, Barry was going to kill me.
That's funny because that's not really like Barry either. He doesn't usually get that hot, but it was the one thing that could trigger him, I guess.
Exactly.
Pace screwing up in the room.
Yes. I know, Pace, you have a meeting to get to. So, Karl, let's get to Karl's stupid questions.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to happen fast. I see our countdown here is 6.5 minutes. Okay. So I don't need to explain the game to you. We'll just answer some questions and have fun with it, Pace. If you could be a pro athlete in any sport, what sport would it be?
NASCAR. Easy.
Easy NASCAR. What sponsor would you want?
Bojangles. Easy.
Nice. Okay. What's your favorite breakfast?
Belvita breakfast bars, blueberry flavored.
A Velveeta?
Belvita.
Belvita. It's their,
Velveeta.
right. I got them right here. They're just these blueberry crackers.
Is that why they were always in the Capitals media room? Because you
that's where it started. Yeah, we would have cinnamon and blueberry Belvitas. Yep. This goes way back.
I remember having those. I was like, well, and they've disappeared since you left. So I don't know what's going on here.
That's hilarious. I've never even tried one.
That was all me.
Good to know. Okay. If you had to give up one of these, which one would you give up? Drinking any sort of booze, sports, taking part in and watching sports, or traveling anywhere outside of Carolina?
Wow. I mean, you just listed my 3 favorite things.
That's the toughest question you've ever asked on here, I think.
Yeah.
It might be.
I mean, I guess it's traveling outside of North Carolina. I could still get plenty of things done within the state.
Look, we'll come out. We'll come hang with you in Raleigh and chop it up.
Exactly.
That's so funny. He's on lockdown. Who would you say is your celebrity crush?
That's a tough one. Probably Anna Kendrick from Pitch Perfect. Big fan of the Pitch Perfect movies.
So good in Pitch Perfect. We were just talking about it last night too. Yeah. Very talented. Good choice. Who would you say is the funniest player you've ever worked with?
Yeah, it's got to be Chim Dog.
Chim Dog. What was so funny about Chim Dog, in your opinion?
I mean, my favorite thing that he would do is he would always come running out of the shower, dripping wet, and pick some unlikely person to jump on and tackle. That was always a fan favorite.
Yeah, so funny. And usually Curdy got it too. It was so funny. Okay, last one. And I've tweaked this question a little bit thanks to Dennis Weidman's recommendation. Okay, would you rather have to burp for 30 minutes after every meal you ate, hiccup for 3 hours a day, every day, or randomly throw up once a week? Just completely random. Never knew when it was happening. Just happened.
That's an easy one. Definitely throw up randomly once a week.
What?
Yeah,
even with the tweaks now.
Yes, that's definitely the one to choose.
So all of a sudden, right now, you just threw up in your lap. You'd be okay with that.
But then I know I have peace of mind for the rest of the week that I'm home free. And then if we start getting towards Friday and Saturday, I can start putting myself in positions to where if I haven't thrown up yet, okay, I need to be near a trash can in case it's going to happen. No, like knowing that those things are going to happen every time that you eat. I mean, that's just like constant dread.
Oh man, that's interesting because Wide said the same thing about the throw up, but that's like the first one I would eliminate. Say nope, not doing it. So, all right, I need some more tweaking, I guess. Why not?
Yeah, no, I think you have an answer. I think this question almost needs to be retired at this point.
Is that what you would pick too?
That's also what I pick. Yes.
What the?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, retired. Let me just write that down so I know for next time. All right, questions retired. All right, so that's it. That was fast. Holy smokes. Let me add these up really quick. NASCAR, yeah, Belvita Breakfast Bar. I can't comment on that because I don't know. Traveling, and I can't drink Chimera. Pretty solid answers, Pace. The throw up thing really throws me off. I think that slots you in at about 188 points.
Yes.
For Dale Jr. right there.
Yes, I'll take it.
That's going to tie you with Joe Beninati, actually.
Wow, that's elite company.
That's really good company.
That is good company. And Mike Zeisberger. Does that sound right?
Wow.
You got Zeiss, who's part of one of your better memories from Toronto and the David Ayers night, featured in Odd Man in Triumph Books, October. Pace, the good news is you don't have to give up drinking or sports or traveling outside of North Carolina. So we'll see you in DC. We'll see you in Raleigh. I'm sure Scotty and I will see you, I'm sure at some point this season. Thanks for joining us on All Caps.
Yeah, no doubt. Looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. Huge fan of this podcast. Really appreciate you guys having me on. Quite the honor.
Thanks, Pace Car.
We love having a favorite of the podcast on All Caps. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next week.